we close meteorological winter today. The last 3 months overall will end up close to average temperature-wise for most of the state, largely because of the unseasonably mild last 2 weeks. But that certainly masks what has been a lot of ups and downs, a story that is well told by ice on the Great Lakes. Now here's a visualization of ice cover over the last 2 months. This starts right after Christmas at the start of the Arctic blast that lasted into January. Ice-covered areas are gray and black. Total ice cover at that time was about 15%. Where the lakes were open, blues show water temperatures in the 30s, greens in the 40s. As the Arctic air took hold, with some days 20 or more degrees colder than average, Lake Erie nearly froze over, the other lakes icing around the edges. Total ice cover reached 32% by mid-January. The brutal cold then relaxed, and total ice cover actually dropped below 25% by the 1st of February. But another colder than average period followed, and in just 10 days, the total ice cover reached nearly 70%, the maximum for the winter. Since then, coverage dropped to 42% during last week's big warm-up, then it went back up a bit, but has now dropped below 35%, even Erie opening up on its western end. To put this year's maximum ice cover of nearly 70% in context, the long-term average maximum on the lakes is 55%. Last year's maximum extent was less than 20%, and on this date last year, total Great Lakes ice coverage was less than 5%. The new WxYz imagery nicely shows how ice can move around on the lakes, even on a daily basis. This was 2 weeks ago as southwest surface winds pushed ice away from the southern shore of Lake Michigan. At the same time, those winds nudged ice on Lake Superior away from shore. This is a 5-hour loop with one image every 5 minutes. Meanwhile, on Lake Huron, fractures in the ice were easy to see, even widening as the day went on. You may have noticed that Lake Ontario hasn't even been mentioned. That's because of all the lakes, it freezes the least. These high-resolution images from yesterday certainly bear that out. Ontario resists freezing because it's relatively deep, it's sheltered by the other lakes from the most brutal cold, and its western waters are agitated by flow out of the Niagara River. The path to an ice-free Great Lakes usually isn't a straight line in the spring. In fact, in about 3/4 of all years, ice coverage at some point in March actually exceeded its value at the end of February. Stay tuned, our extended forecast will shed some light on any March chill to come.